The last goodbye. Keanu Reeves stood by the airport window, his eyes fixed on the runway, where planes took off into the pink sky. It was early morning. The terminal was almost empty. He had his bag slung over one shoulder, a passport in his coat pocket, and a heart that had grown heavier over the last few weeks. He was done. Done with the chaos, the noise, the misunderstandings. Hollywood had become too loud. The stories in the press had become too cruel. Every time he tried to do something kind, someone twisted it into something fake. And the worst part, someone he cared about deeply, had started to believe the lies too. Anna. They had met during the filming of a quiet indie project. Nothing flashy, nothing big budget, just a story about loss and healing. Both of them had been drawn to it for that reason. Keanu had admired her from afar before, but on set, something changed. They understood each other without words. They laughed about the same silly things. He noticed how she always helped the crew, even when she wasn't in the shot. And she noticed how he brought coffee for the grips and sound guys every morning without fail. It wasn't romantic at first. It was safe, warm, like two lost souls trying to find a piece of peace in a world that often felt fake. But then things started to change. The tabloids had found them. Headlines began popping up. Keanu and Anna secretly engaged? Jealous fights behind closed doors. She's using him for fame. None of it was true. But it hurt. It hurt worse when Anna stopped answering his calls for a few days. When she finally replied, her voice was distant. She said, "I need space, Keanu. Maybe this was never real to begin with." That line haunted him. Maybe this was never real. Keanu didn't get angry. He just quietly began packing his things. He gave away most of his belongings to charity. Canceled projects. His assistant begged him to reconsider. His agent sent long emails filled with numbers and deals. None of it mattered. He wanted out of Los Angeles, out of the spotlight, out of this chapter of his life. He bought a one-way ticket to Japan. He didn't tell anyone. He didn't need a farewell party. He just needed silence. Now he stood at the terminal, gate B12 flashing on the screen. Boarding in 20 minutes. Behind him, the speaker called out his flight number. He didn't move. His hand gripped the strap of his bag tighter. Then a voice came from behind. Soft, breathless, unsure. "Keanu, wait." He froze. He knew that voice. Slowly, he turned. Ana de Armas stood there, no makeup, wearing an oversized hoodie, hair messy, eyes swollen from crying. She looked like she had run all the way from wherever she came. They stared at each other for a long time. The world around them seemed to blur. "I saw the flight alert," she said quietly, "and I panicked." Keanu didn't speak. He was afraid if he did, he'd break. Anna walked closer. "I was wrong," she whispered. "You were the realest thing in my life, and I let my fear, my pride, the noise, push you away." He shook his head slowly. "Anna, it's okay." "But," she interrupted him, "no, it's not okay, because I let you believe that you didn't matter, and that's the biggest lie of all." The speaker called again. "Final boarding call." He looked at her. His eyes glistened. "I don't want to be the reason you give up," she said, her voice cracking. "But if you walk away now, I'll never forgive myself." Keanu hesitated. Then Anna said the line that shattered him. A single sentence that reached deeper than any headline ever could. She looked into his eyes and said, "Please don't go. I still believe in you." Everything went quiet. Keanu Reeves, the man known for keeping his emotions locked behind calm smiles and thoughtful words, felt something shift in his chest. He let the bag fall from his shoulder. Anna took a step forward, and he, finally, didn't step back. Healing in silence, Keanu didn't speak. He couldn't. The words were caught in his throat, buried beneath months of disappointment, confusion, and a loneliness he hadn't shared with anyone. Anna reached out gently, touching his hand. The same hand that had held hers during night shoots, during scenes filled with pain and love, during off-camera quiet moments when no one was looking. His hand didn't pull away. The airport faded behind them. The announcements, the loudspeaker, the gates, the people walking by, it was all gone. In that moment, there was just the weight of everything they never said. And now, maybe, just maybe, it was time to say it. "Let's get out of here," Anna said, voice low. "Not Japan, just somewhere quiet." Keanu nodded. They didn't. "Say another word." He picked up his bag. She looped her arm through his. Outside the terminal, they didn't call a driver. They walked, past taxis, past shuttle buses, into a quiet corner where the wind stirred the leaves and the sky above slowly shifted from pink to gray. Keanu finally spoke. "I wasn't running away because of you." Anna looked at him. "I know," she said. "But I think part of you didn't believe you deserved to stay." His eyes lowered. Maybe not. They sat on a bench under a tree. No cameras, no flashing lights. Just the wind, the sound of distant traffic, and two souls trying to understand each other again. Anna pulled her, knees to her chest. "You've always been so strong," she said. "You walk through storms and still smile. You carry everyone's pain like it's yours. And the world, they turn it into a show." Keanu didn't respond. He watched a leaf drift slowly to the ground. "It's not strength," he said. "It's survival." Anna swallowed hard. "And who helps you survive?" He looked at her. "No one, really." A long pause. Anna's voice was barely a whisper. "Then let me try." Keanu turned his face away. Not because he didn't believe her, but because part of him was afraid of being loved for the wrong reasons, afraid of losing what little peace he'd found. "When did everything become so heavy?" she asked suddenly. He thought for a moment. "When kindness became strange, and silence became suspicious." Anna nodded slowly. "Do you remember that night in Iceland?" she asked. Keanu gave a small smile. "When the power went out on set?" "Yeah," she said. "And we sat under a broken tent while it snowed." "And we shared that old thermos of soup," he added, chuckling softly. Anna looked at him. "You told me that night. This world doesn't need more noise. It needs people who listen." "I remember." She leaned closer. "So listen. Now. Not to the critics, not to the tabloids, not even to your fear. Listen to me. I want you to stay. Not for a movie, not for the press, not for anyone but yourself." He looked at her with quiet eyes. "What if I'm too tired, Anna?" She nodded. "Then rest, and I'll sit right beside you until you're ready again." They sat in silence. Not the kind of silence that feels awkward, the kind that feels like home. Later that evening, they walked back to Anna's apartment. No fancy cars, no crowds, just footsteps echoing on the pavement, hearts beating in rhythm. She made tea. He sat on the couch, hands wrapped around the warm mug. She played soft piano music from her phone. They didn't talk much. He watched her move through the kitchen, barefoot, humming softly, and for the first time in weeks, his chest didn't feel tight. When she sat beside him, he asked, "Do you really still believe in me?" Anna didn't flinch. "With everything in me." That night, Keanu didn't check his messages, didn't look at headlines, didn't open his ticket app. He just sat beside someone who saw him, not as a movie star, not as a headline, not as a broken man, but simply as Keanu. And when he finally fell asleep on her couch, she didn't wake him. She just covered him with A blanket sat down on the floor beside him and whispered to the quiet air, "You don't have to run anymore. I've got you." Echoes of the past. The sun peeked through the curtains the next morning, its soft light falling across Keanu's face. He stirred gently on the couch, blinking as he slowly woke up. For a moment, he didn't know where he was. Then he heard a soft clink from the kitchen, followed by the familiar scent of fresh coffee. He sat up. Anna was there, in a loose robe, hair still damp from a shower, pouring 2 cups of coffee. She glanced over and smiled. "Good morning," she said gently. Keanu rubbed his eyes and gave a small nod. "How long have you been up?" "A while," she replied, bringing him a cup. "You looked peaceful. I didn't want to wake you." He took the cup and held it in both hands. It was warm, comforting, grounding. "Thank you," he said. Anna sat down beside him. They didn't speak for a while. They didn't need to. The silence between them was no longer heavy. It was healing, but even peace has its shadows. After breakfast, Keanu's phone buzzed. It had been off since the airport, but Anna had turned it on while he slept, just in case someone important was trying to reach him. Now the screen lit up with missed calls, messages, and one headline that chilled them both. Keanu Reeves missing. Reports claim he vanished just before flight to Japan. Anna stared at the screen. They're already spinning it. Keanu's jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't react with anger. They always do. "You don't have to go back out there," Anna said quickly. "Not yet. Not until you're ready." Keanu nodded slowly. "I know, but eventually I'll have to face it." They spent the next few days away from the world. No interviews, no cameras, just slow walks in the park, quiet dinners, and hours of listening to old records. Anna had a collection of vintage vinyls, soft jazz, classical, old Spanish ballads, and Keanu would sit by the window, eyes closed, letting the music wash over him like a tide. But even as he began to heal, something inside him remained unsettled. One afternoon, as they sat watching the rain, he spoke. "Anna, do you remember my sister?" She looked up. "Kim," he nodded. "She's the reason I stayed grounded all those years, the reason I didn't lose myself. I remember you said she was sick. She still is, but stable now, for a long time. I thought if I could just stay quiet, stay good, life would go easy on her." Anna listened carefully, not interrupting. "But it didn't," he continued. "The world doesn't work like that. Being good doesn't stop the storms. And lately I've been asking myself, if everything I've ever done still led to pain, then what's the point of it all?" Anna's eyes filled with quiet sadness. "You've helped more people than you'll ever know, Keanu. Just by being who you are." He smiled faintly. "That's what people say. But it doesn't always feel true." She reached out, placing her hand over his. "Let me show you something." She stood and disappeared into the other room. When she came back, she held a small notebook, worn with creases on the edges. "What's this?" he asked. "My journal," she said. "From when we were filming together." She opened it to a page near the back and handed it to him. On it, in her own handwriting, were the words, "Day 38. Today Keanu gave up his lunch for a crew member who forgot theirs. He didn't make a show of it. He just did it. I watched from a distance and felt something shift in me. He's not acting. He's living the way we all wish we could." He stared at the page, his throat tightening. Anna spoke softly. "You didn't just help people on screen. You made people believe in good again. You made me believe." He closed the book gently and looked up at her. "Why are you doing all this?" She took a deep breath. "Because, for a long time, I kept people out. I told myself love wasn't worth the pain, and then I met you, and you showed me something different. I was scared. I let go, and now I regret it." "Anna." "No," she said firmly. "You gave me grace. Now I want to give it back." They sat in silence for a long time. Then Keanu asked, "What if I don't know how to move forward anymore?" Anna smiled. "Then start small, with one kind word, one deep breath, one honest step." Keanu looked down at his hands, thinking. Then, as if fate itself had been listening, his phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a headline. It was a text from an unknown number. "You don't know me, but last year you spoke to my brother during a bad day. You probably forgot. He didn't. He says it saved his life. Just wanted you to know." Keanu read the message twice. Anna saw the look on his face. "Who is it?" He shook his head slowly. "Someone I don't even remember meeting. But they remembered you," she whispered. Keanu leaned back, closed his eyes, and let the weight fall from his shoulders. Little by little, outside, the rain stopped. A beam of sunlight broke through the clouds, and somewhere in that quiet apartment, a broken heart began to mend. The unexpected invitation, Keanu Reeves stood at the kitchen sink, drying the last of the dishes with slow, thoughtful movements. The sunlight had finally returned to Los Angeles, and for the first time in weeks, he didn't feel like hiding from it. Behind him, Ana de Armas was watering her plants near the window, humming a melody too soft for him to recognize. It felt like a moment from someone else's life. Quiet, normal, almost tender. He looked over his shoulder. "You always take care of them like they're your kids," he said with a slight smile. Anna turned, smiling back. "Plants don't lie," she replied. "They either grow or they don't. No drama." Keanu nodded. "Wish people worked like that." Anna walked over and leaned against the counter beside him. "Some do. You do." His smile faded. "Not always. I've made my share of mistakes." "Me too," she said. "But mistakes don't make us unlovable. They make us human." He looked at her for a long moment, as if seeing her again for the first time. Just then, a loud knock broke the quiet moment. Both of them turned toward the door. Anna frowned. "Are you expecting anyone?" Keanu shook his head. "No one knows. I'm here." She walked to the door and opened it cautiously. Standing there was a man in a navy blue suit, sunglasses in his front pocket, holding a black envelope. He gave a respectful nod. "Mr. Reeves?" he asked politely. Keanu stepped forward, tense but calm. "Yes?" The man handed over the envelope. "This is from the Film Foundation Board. It's urgent. I was asked to deliver it personally." Keanu took the envelope without a word. The man nodded again, then walked away. Anna closed the door behind her and watched as Keanu carefully opened the seal. Inside was a letter printed on thick paper. Keanu read it silently. Anna waited, her expression turning worried. "What is it?" He handed it to her. "Dear Mr. Reeves, in light of recent events and the inspiration you continue to provide both on and off screen, we are honored to invite you as the keynote speaker for the Global Filmmakers Trust Summit in Paris. We believe your voice, quiet, honest, and full of grace, is exactly what this fractured industry needs right now. We hope you will consider. Sincerely, the board." Anna looked up. "Paris?" Keanu nodded slowly. "They want me to speak. Are you going?" He hesitated. "I don't know." "Why not?" she asked. He leaned against the wall, folding the letter in his hands. "Because I've spent years avoiding stages. I don't want to be anyone's hero. I just wanted to live quietly." Anna stepped closer. "Maybe it's not about being a hero. Maybe it's about giving people hope, about reminding them that it's okay to break and to keep going." Keanu looked down. "I'm not sure I believe that yet." Anna touched his arm. "Then let them believe for you, just this once." The next morning, Keanu sat in the garden, behind Anna's apartment. It was small, hidden between walls and ivy, but peaceful. He held a journal in his lap, blank, except for one line he had scribbled the night before. "I'm still learning how to stay." He stared at the page for a long time. The silence was heavy again, but this time it felt like it was asking him something, urging him to stop hiding, to stop running, to say something that mattered. He opened a new page and began to write. A week later, the headlines changed again. Keanu Reeves to make surprise appearance at Paris summit. Fans shocked. The night before his flight, Anna helped him pack. You still haven't answered my question," she said, folding one of his black shirts. "What question?" "Why you almost left without saying goodbye to anyone." Paused, then said softly, "Because I thought I didn't matter enough for a goodbye." Anna's eyes softened. She set the shirt down and stepped closer. "Then let me be the first to say it properly." She reached up and hugged him, her arms wrapping around his back tightly. "Goodbye, Keanu. Not because I want you to go, but because I know you'll come back." He held her for a long moment, then whispered, "Thank you for everything." On the plane to Paris. Keanu sat by the window, a copy of his speech tucked into his bag. He hadn't memorized it. He didn't want to sound polished or perfect. He just wanted to speak from the truth. He thought about the summit, about the cameras, the lights, the hundreds of eyes that would be on him. But mostly he thought about one moment, the airport. Anna's voice. "Please don't go. I still believe in you." He looked out the window as the clouds shifted below. For the first time in a long while, he didn't feel like a man escaping. He felt like a man arriving. The stage and the storm Paris was colder than he remembered. Keanu stepped off the plane with a small bag slung over his shoulder and a scarf wrapped tightly around his neck. The sky was overcast, the wind biting at his skin, but he didn't mind. There was a quiet beauty to it, a calm. A car was waiting. A quiet driver with kind eyes greeted him with a soft, "Bonjour, Monsieur Reeves," before taking his luggage and opening the door. The city passed by in a blur outside the window, cobbled. Streets, pale buildings, the Eiffel Tower peeking through gray clouds. But Keanu wasn't looking at the skyline. He was thinking about his speech. He had rewritten it 3 times on the flight. Crossed out words, added others. None of it felt right. Because the truth was, he didn't want to perform anymore. He wanted to be honest. The summit was being held at a historic theater, ornate ceilings, golden chandeliers, and rows of red velvet seats that curved like a river through the room. Hundreds of filmmakers, actors, producers, and students filled the space. Some held phones, others held notebooks. All of them were waiting. Backstage, Keanu stood in the wings with a cup of water in his hands. His palms were cold. His heart beat a little too fast. He stared at the curtains in front of him. A man in a headset approached. "You're on in 5, Mr. Reeves." Keanu nodded. Then he turned his back to the stage and looked out the small window above the emergency door. Paris stretched wide in the distance, soft lights beginning to glow as evening came. He closed his eyes, and in the quiet of his mind, he heard her voice again. "I still believe in you." When the host finally called his name, the applause was instant, long, loud. People stood up as he walked onto the stage, some clapping, some recording, others simply watching him with admiration. He stood at the podium, no teleprompter, no prepared speech, just a folded notebook in his hands. He unfolded it slowly, then looked up. And then he stepped away from the podium. He didn't need it. He walked to the center of the stage, microphone in hand, and spoke with calm clarity. "Thank you," he began. "Thank you for asking me to be here. To be honest, I didn't think I'd accept. Not because I didn't appreciate it, but because I wasn't sure I had anything left to say." The room was completely silent now. "For a long time I've been running," he continued. "Not from people, not from work, but from this feeling that I didn't matter anymore. That no matter how much kindness you try to give, the world can twist it, mock it, turn it into something ugly. Some audience members nodded quietly. And then, just before I left, someone said something to me that changed everything. They said, "Please don't go. I still believe in you." His voice wavered slightly. I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear those words, because the truth is, even people who seem strong, even people who smile all the time, need someone to believe in them. He paused. We live in a world that celebrates noise, but sometimes silence is what saves us. A quiet moment, a gentle word, a simple act of kindness. Keanu stepped forward again, eyes locked with the crowd. So if you're here today wondering, if your story matters, if your art matters, if you matter, I want to say this to you. He took a deep breath. I still believe in you. The audience sat motionless, some with tears in their eyes. Thank you, he said softly, and walked off the stage. The applause didn't stop, even after he was gone. The sound followed him backstage, echoing like a wave breaking gently over a quiet beach. He sat down on a bench behind the curtain, breathing slowly, blinking back the heat behind his eyes. A crew member handed him a bottle of water. That was real, she whispered. Thank you. He smiled faintly. You're welcome. Hours later, back in his hotel room, Keanu stood by the window with his phone in hand. He hadn't checked it since landing. Now he opened the messages. One unread. From Ana. Watched it live. You didn't just speak. You healed people. Come home soon. We're all waiting. He smiled. Another message came in right after. P.S. I made soup. He chuckled softly, then typed back. On the next flight home. The next day, headlines around the world read, Keanu Reeves delivers one of the most powerful speeches in modern film history. A standing ovation for humility, healing, and hope. He didn't act. He told the truth. On the flight home, Keanu didn't sleep. He wrote in his journal, don't mistake silence for absence. Don't mistake kindness for weakness. And never forget, one honest voice can change everything. The clouds shifted outside his window. And for the first time in a long time, he wasn't drifting away. He was flying back toward something real. The quiet return. The plane touched down just after midnight. The runway lights blurred under the soft drizzle as the jet slowed to a stop. Keanu sat quietly by the window, waiting. He was one of the last to stand up. He didn't mind. There was no rush anymore. As he stepped off the plane, the air felt different, cooler, softer, like the world had exhaled. A young airport worker, barely 20, recognized him but didn't say a word. He just smiled and nodded respectfully. Keanu returned the nod with a soft, thank you, and kept walking. Outside, the night was still. A single black car waited at the curb, engine low, lights dim. But it wasn't a driver who stepped out, it was Ana. She didn't run, didn't wave. She just stood there, hands tucked into the pockets of her coat, eyes locked on his. Keanu froze, then smiled. I thought you'd be asleep, he said. I was, she replied. Then I woke up and realized I didn't want you coming home to silence. He stepped closer. I'm glad you came. Me too. They stood in the drizzle for a moment, neither speaking, neither needing to. Then she said quietly, You looked so calm up there in Paris. I wasn't, he admitted, but I believed in what I was saying. That helped. She nodded. You made the world listen. He gave a faint smile. And you made me stay. They drove back through the sleeping city, past glowing traffic lights and empty sidewalks. The streets looked less like escape routes, and more like threads tying him back to something real. Back at her apartment, everything was just as he left. The same soft lamp glow, the quiet hum of the fridge, the smell of rosemary from the little pot she kept by the window. Ana poured him tea. He sat at the table watching the steam rise. She sat across from him and reached into her pocket. "I want to show you something," she said. She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. He opened it. It was a drawing. Simple, hand-sketched. Two figures standing on a bridge under rain, one holding an umbrella over the other. Above them, the words, "Sometimes the person who holds the umbrella is the one who needed shelter the most." Keanu stared at it. "I drew it after you left." "For Paris," she said softly. "It reminded me of you." He looked up, eyes misty. "That's beautiful, Anna." "So are you," she said. Silence. He reached across the table and took her hand. "You didn't just stop me from leaving," he said. "You reminded me why I ever stayed in the first place." Anna blinked back emotion. "What now?" Keanu looked around the room, then at her. "Now, I start again, slowly, honestly. And I don't do it alone." She squeezed his hand. "Then let's begin." Weeks passed. Keanu didn't take any major projects. No big interviews, no red carpets. Instead, he taught a free film workshop at a small high school downtown. He spent afternoons writing, mornings helping at a local shelter. Some days he'd disappear for hours on a motorcycle, returning with stories of people he met and small kindnesses he'd received. Anna started a short film project of her own. Quiet, heartfelt stories about overlooked lives. Keanu helped with sound design. Neither of them talked much about the industry. They didn't need to. They were too busy living. One Sunday afternoon, Anna came home and found Keanu in the kitchen, apron on, flour on his nose, making bread. She burst out laughing. "What on earth are you doing?" He looked up, pretending to be serious. "Redefining my legacy." She grinned. "You're doing amazing." He walked over, wiped flour on her cheek playfully and said, "You helped me rewrite the script." One day, he took her to a park they hadn't visited before. In his hand, he carried something. They sat on a bench, facing the lake. Keanu pulled out a small notebook, his journal. He flipped to a page. "I wrote this after that first night back at your place," he said. "After you said you still believed in me." He read aloud. "Sometimes it takes just one voice. One person standing still while the world spins too fast. One pair of arms that says, you don't have to carry it alone. And in that stillness, we find our way home again." Anna rested her head on his shoulder. They sat there as the wind brushed through the trees and ducks floated gently across the water. He didn't need to fly across the world anymore to find peace. He'd found it here, not in silence, but in truth, in kindness, in love. The world kept turning, but Keanu Reeves was no longer running from it. He was walking with it, hand in hand with the woman who stopped him at the gate with a single, unforgettable line. "Please don't go. I still believe in you."